All right, now we are live with another episode of Comic Talk. It's that show brought to you by The Keeg where we talk about this week's new comic book releases. For those of you who don't know, new comic books come out every single Wednesday at your local comic shop. Go to comicshoplocator.com to find a comic shop near you. But new comics come out on Wednesdays, whether they're DC, Marvel, Image, Indie, whatever type of comics. They all come out on Wednesdays, and we're here every Thursday on our live stream, Thursdays, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, to talk about all the comics that came out this week that we could read all together in 24 hours. You'd be surprised. Some weeks it's a lot, and some weeks it's a little bit, but we do our best. I'm your host, Dimithri Perera, and if you're watching us live, you're watching us on youtube.com/The Keeg Show, or maybe twitch.tv/The Keeg Show, but we're really pushing the YouTube nowadays. Or maybe you're listening to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. But regardless of where you're at, thank you so much for watching or listening. Let us know you're out there. Hop in the chat, like, comment, subscribe, follow, write a review, so on and so forth. Let me introduce my guests, both of which who have been on Comic Talk before. One for at least a year now, right, Ethan? AKA
It's
Virgo
about to
Blade.
be a year and a half. Like, time is flying by. But yeah, it's been like a year and a half.
That's wild because
Yeah.
we don't add too many new guests to Comic Talk. It's rare because everybody tends to do this and then rotate in and out, and it tends to be like a set list. So Ethan's one of the newest people, but it's been a year and a half. So thanks for.
I feel very honored.
Thanks for spending a year and a half on the show. I think we started Comic Talk March of 2021. So I'm trying to think of if we have a guest on current rotation that was there in the beginning. And I don't think so. The oldest, not the oldest in age, but longest time guest is probably Manny Reads Comics. I think Manny came in before Drew, but they're probably the longest. But for anyone out there, Ethan isn't the newest guest on the show. We got a new guest who has been on this show at least a couple of times now. We got Jack, aka The Film Field. Jack, welcome back, man.
Yeah, thank you for having me on again. It's a great week to talk comics, especially on the DC side, so I'm excited to talk about it.
I want to know your guys' opinion before we even get to our reading list. You guys got opinions on, like, is DC has the smaller slate per week, but is it quality over quantity? How are you guys feeling? If we have to just cursory compare Marvel and DC. I love them both.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be a little bit biased. I am a DC guy, as you well know. At the same time, I can be more critical of DC, so I feel like it does balance out. To that end, I will say that I feel like DC has the hits, so Marvel might have more, but personally, like, in the overall direction of the publisher, I feel like DC is in a healthier place. I will try other Marvel stuff, but I feel like overall it's not hitting the same that DC is hitting, like with everything going into the summer of Superman and the Dark Side's Legion. Like, there's just so much coming up that's very exciting and also happening right now. And like, yes, there's Doctor Doom in Marvel, and like that's good, but it's not really carrying the entire universe. So I will have to give it to DC.
Yeah,
That's
I
fair.
think I also lean that way. Especially, I'm also a decently biased DC guy, but I do think generally overall the amount of comics that are coming from DC, even if it's not as big as Marvel, it feels as though there's a lot more consistency of just generally good comic book runs coming out. Even for certain runs that I don't love, like I like the Superman run, Josh Williamson's run, but I don't love it. But even then, I feel like that has held a certain consistency among some other DC books that I just feel like aren't really there with Marvel. There's at least a floor where I'm like, this is a fun comic series. And beyond that, I think all of the absolute titles have been out of this world, especially Absolute Martian Manhunter and all of that. So I just think all of that combined, the consistency of the more general main titles plus all the absolute stuff, it just kind of gives them a nice chunk of content that does feel like quality over quantity.
For sure. In my opinion, I mean, I like DC and Marvel, and I would say, like, you know, for anyone out there, like, read what you want to read, right? Like, find your favorite characters, your favorite teams. There's amazing artists and writers on both sides. DC did this big misstep, not only in New 52, but the fact is that New 52 was predicated on 52 different series, but predicated on 52 different series coming out every month. And like, you guys able to hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I may be frozen. Who knows? But DC was predicated on like, or New 52 back in like 2010 or whatever was predicated on like 52 new series, and like they overreached. And 52 series a month is a lot. And I think DC then at a certain point cut back to like a very small amount. And then now they're like a good, reasonable amount where I think that they're able to like spend the time and effort on the series, managing everything, editing everything, making it cohesive with the DC all-in stuff, and absolute DC with that, that I think it's just more cohesive now.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
You know what helps with the cohesion is a book that came out this week.
What
You're
could
talking
it
about
be?
the new DC history, perchance?
Yeah, new history of the DC universe. I've been since it was announced. I've been waiting because this is what I live for. I need that continuity.
Same. Like, I guess, I don't know, maybe it's like a certain type of DC fan, but like, I guess for us, like, I love history and how everything connects, and especially like having Mark Waid do it, not to get all into it already, but like, he's the perfect person to do it, because even reading it, I get the sense of so much respect, because my mind works that way of just like, oh, this is what happened in Scott Snyder and Jorge Jimenez's run in Justice League, and that connecting to various other like very key parts. Whereas it sometimes feels disconnected when artists will come in and do their own thing, and now it feels like there's like a sense of like a Bible of like, this is all the way to, Anthro, to the Legion of Superheroes, like. And just having that like firm foundation is very helpful for the DCU.
100%, especially because I think a lot of new readers who come into DC, the big thing is, where do I start, right? Like, what do I go into? And I always say, I think you should start wherever you want because you'll figure it out. My first comic book was the Red Hood and Arsenal miniseries, which makes no sense to start with. But that brought me into everything, and then I felt completely fine. But I think that this history of DC thing here really does help just bring everything together. And as somebody who follows the cosmology of everything pretty tightly, because I like trying to make sense of all the reboots, even though on a surface level these reboots happen so that we can get new comic books. I like to think about how they make sense, history wise. And I do think that this is going to be a very interesting conversation because I think it was done very well.
Yeah, and I do want to say that, look, for anyone out there watching or listening, this is Comic Talk. It's every Thursday, and we got to talk about like all the comics that came out this week, but new history of DC Universe, we're going to be talking about this Sunday and going really into depth about all the nooks and crannies that came out of like issue 1 of this 4-part series. But I mean, we might as well just skip to our reading lists and then get into it. And I don't know if anyone's favorite was, the new history or whatever. We can touch on it a little, but there's a lot of good stuff that came out this week. But I guess it's just a teaser for our new history of the DC Universe episode that comes out Sunday. But what did you guys read this week?
I'll go.
Yeah.
I did Ultimate Spider-Man number 18, Miles Morales Spider-Man number 34, The Uncanny X-Men number 16, Superman number 27, Absolute Martian Manhunter number 4, Absolute Wonder Woman number 9, Superman, wrong one. Mr. Terrific Year 1 number 2, and the new history of the DC Universe in Justice League Unlimited number 8.
Nice.
Yes.
Good, healthy list. Wait, you have Uncanny X-Men on there?
Yes.
Okay, so it wasn't completely DC.
Correct, yeah. I picked up like 3 Marvel books this week.
Oh, and then it was also Spider-Man. Yeah, there were some Spider-Man ones in there. Okay, cool. Okay, all right.
Yep.
Jack, what do you got on your list?
Yeah, so I had Justice League Unlimited number 8. I had Superman number 27. I had Green Arrow number 25. Green Lantern 24. Absolute Martian Manhunter number 4. And then History of the New DC Universe number 1. I wanted to get to Flash, but was not able to get to that one.
I mean, that's fair. I wanted to read The Flash also, but I couldn't get to it. But I did get to a lot. So let's see what I got. I didn't finish Absolute Martian Manhunter number 4, so I'll be honest about that. But Absolute Wonder Woman 9, Justice League Unlimited 8, Mr. Terrific Year 1 number 2, New History of the DC Universe 1, Superman 27, Miles Morales Spider-Man 34, Uncanny X-Men 16, Ultimate Spider-Man 18, Green Arrow 25, Fantastic Four 33, Predator vs. Spider-Man 3, DC X Sonic the Hedgehog 4, Hyde Street number 7 from Image Comics, Spider-Boy 20, Rockefeller 6 from Image Comics, Giant Size Age of Apocalypse number 1, and Huck Big Bad World number 2 from Dark Horse. Yeah, Dark Horse. So, it was a good week for comics. What can I say?
Yeah. Very good.
100%.
Yeah. Out of our reading list, do you guys have a clear, like, number one?
Yes, and it's not what I had given you. It actually switched up after I read it, but it is Mr. Terrific Year 1, number 2. That one hit especially hard because this was like his origin.
Yeah.
With the Spectre. And Baban always like goes to like John Ostrander and that like I just feel like it's so iconic and like you don't really have to change it up too much. And I'm glad that they didn't go like in a wildly different direction. It still had the Spectre. It adds like Dre and even Jefferson Pierce to it.
Yeah.
Which I think is very cool because I like Black superheroes interacting. Usually they're like, oh, one on each team. It's like as Black people, we come together. So it's like, it's very much a sense of community. So having that in there, that's the type of like origin shifting that I enjoy, where it makes sense and it adds to the character. You also really get Michael Holt's sense of despair and like who he is as a person, because despite having all this potential and greatness, he is really like struggling with depression and he needs people in his life to motivate himself. And I feel like that's what maybe some people who don't understand of like high functioning people who can do a lot, but it's like just because they have all these amazing aspects to themselves doesn't mean that they can be motivated to always like have that lust for life. And I love that the comic covered that. So that was a very clear number 1 for me.
Which comic cover did you like better? There was 2. There was the main one with the Spectre on it, and then there was this like black and red and white one that had like his full like leather jacket costume.
So symbolically, the Spectre one, because I love like a very artistic, metaphorical cover. Like those are usually my favorite. At the same time, the Mr. Terrific cover with like the jacket and he's like inside of himself, like that just looked dope. Like on a purely like stylistic level. So I love them both for different reasons. If I had to pick a favorite, maybe the main cover, just because it includes the Spectre.
Okay.
And the Spectre is very cool.
I'm neither here nor there on the Spectre, like as a character. Like, I think I like it when he pops in on other people's stuff. I don't like it when the Spectre's like a team member. You know?
I get that. I kind of fully agree with that. I prefer when the character ends up being going over and possessing an already existing character. Like my favorite Spectre ever was when Hal Jordan was the Spectre for me. Like I thought that was a really fun way to do it without it feeling like, all right, now we have to plug the Spectre on a team.
Yeah. I mean, I like, and although it was tragic, I like Crispus Allen's Spectre because like he was set up as a character for however many years of just a Gotham detective, I think. And then they were like, no, we're going to kill him and bond him to the Spectre. And I thought that was cool. And the Spectre became like this weird legacy kind of thing. And it worked. And I don't know where Crispus Allen is now, but maybe New History of the DC Universe, like issue 3 will go over it. Like, you know, who knows?
We can only hope.
Yeah. I wouldn't put it past, Mark Waid and editorial to they threw everybody in on this one, but
Yeah.
we'll get there. We'll get there when we're talking about it. What was I gonna say? I was gonna say something, but I forget. Did anyone have any thoughts about the Mr. Terrific? Like, any more thoughts before we move?
I unfortunately haven't gotten to it yet, but everyone's saying its praises, so I have to.
Yeah. I knew what I was gonna ask. Ethan, which cover would you get as like a poster in your room?
Why are you doing this to me?
I'm sorry, you gotta pick a favorite,
Okay. Like, I'm indecisive when it comes to this stuff. Okay, so for my room, I'll say the variant, because
Mhm.
that's the one with like the black and white with the actual suit, just because I feel like aesthetically it would look really cool in a room.
Yeah.
But for a comic book, I would want the main Spectre cover.
Yeah.
Are you happy? Are you satisfied?
I am. I mean, they're both great.
Yeah.
I'm just, I was really torn on that one because I wanted to, as I was like advertising this episode and all the comics that came out this week, I was like, I just want to put the variant cover as the cover for this issue because I'm like, big fan of it.
Yeah,
anyway,
it's fine.
Yeah. It's a good one. How do you feel, just real quick, about the weird tying in of the Mr. Terrific mythos to like Darkseid? Because they've done it on a couple of different places. They've done it with his son, who got like kidnapped and made it like raised by Granny Goodness. Then in this, they're tying the original villain or lady, right, to Darkseid in this flashback.
Yeah, so it's actually almost seeming like Mr. Terrific, he's like leveling up even more. Because like Spectre basically says, like, you are very important to this universe. I love that scene too. The writing, the dialogue was on point. But yes, Prescott, she is like working for Darkseid, doing his bidding. But the whole thing, wait, I'm not sure if I should spoil it.
It's whatever.
Okay.
Unless Jack is like, no. But it's up to Jack.
Feel free. Spoilers don't hurt me. Go.
Okay, just make sure, because it's actually very dope, and I love this part of it. So basically, like, Michael Holt, he was working with his wife Paula, and she was also a super genius, and she had this design for this engine. And so after her death, he actually sells it to Prescott, and that's what she's using for the Nexus engine. So he bears that responsibility for creating it. And so also, like, Darkseid is controlling her and she is doing his bidding. But also there's this sense that, like, with the radiation that he's been looking into, and it's going to tie into like what his wife who passed away created, it just feels like his destiny from the beginning of his origin was set up to be connected to Darkseid and like to find out what's going on with this radiation that was created. And it is like he's going to play a bigger part than I assumed, just because, with him being Mr. Terrific, he is the go-to guy when there's a problem to be solved. But now seeing his origin and how it connects to Paula, to Prescott, to the radiation, to the Nexus engine, is going to be even bigger. So he is a major part of this whole like Darkseid absolute universe situation. So to answer your question, I love how they're tying this in because it's boosting up his profile, and I want him to be A-list.
Yeah. I mean, I think what they're doing is kind of like what they do with Constantine sometimes, because Constantine's not the best magician, or at least he's not the most powerful. Like, he's not to the sense of like being a Dr. Fate or whatever, right? But like Constantine is constantly like, he has very high charisma or whatever. Like, if you're playing like Dungeons and Dragons or whatever, like he's very high in that, right? In that intuition. So Mr. Terrific, I think what they're trying to do is like set him up so he's so smart, his intellect can go up against gods. Whereas like Constantine's so charismatic, his charisma and intuition can go up against gods.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because how I look at Mr. Terrific, and I constantly say that he's the smartest man in the DCU, and I'm not saying that just to say it. I fully believe that.
I mean, that's what I say. I say he's the smartest. I don't say he's the third smartest.
Yes, because it's not just how like someone's IQ. It's like it's their entire being. Like, someone can be smart when it comes to mathematics or English or languages, but like emotional intelligence is a thing as well. Spiritual intelligence is a thing as well. And for him to be a man of science, but like his first introduction is with Spectre, the spiritual being, this wrath of God, he has to accept that. And I feel like that's really where like Bruce Wayne Batman falters, is because he has a hard time accepting things that are difficult for him. Look at the Court of Owls. And so it feels like he has been poised since his origin in dealing with the Spectre, this man of science, having to reconcile with his issues of faith in order to propel himself to even higher levels of understanding, to the point where he can confront gods. So yes, that's how I feel about it as well.
I also like the retcon in the book where it says, like, they made it a joke. They said, like, he considers himself the third smartest person in the world because his wife was 1 and 2.
Yes.
And that's how they worked that in.
I will accept that.
Yeah. And I was like, I thought that was cool. It was, it's like I'm tired of, first thing, I'm just tired of, like, people online power ranking people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get it. It's sometimes it's fun, I guess, but like, it's not a hard and fast rule that like he's number 3.
No, because here's the other thing. Like, they also say that like Lex Luthor is number 2. He loses constantly, and he does not have like the developmental skills of like being a mature person.
Yeah.
He's crashing out all the time. Mr. Terrific is calm, cool, and collected.
Yeah.
It's like Lex loses. Mr. Terrific gets
Lex
stuff done.
Loser.
Yes, Lex Luthor. Like, Terrific has feats. He like found Barry Allen. He helped Tim Drake find Batman Bruce Wayne. It's like what he's accomplished is beyond what Lex has done, because Lex loses to Superman on a constant basis.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point you made, especially about the emotional intelligence, because I'm massive Batman fan, like hardcore Batman fan. But even I get so frustrated when people try to so hard push Batman as this overly like smartest guy in the world. It's like, sure, strategic, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But when it comes to actual like emotional intelligence, the reason I love Batman is because I think he's kind of a big man baby. And I think that that's an interesting aspect of him because he's incredibly emotional. And I think that he just doesn't have that same level of emotional intelligence that Mr. Terrific does. And I think that that is what creates that gap where I love Batman, but he isn't that kind of person that I think that Mr. Terrific has earned the right to be. I don't think that Batman has reached those levels. Even if you want to say he's super smart, high IQ, I don't think he has that same emotional intelligence and overall just like stability of his emotions that I think Mr. Terrific does.
Yeah.
I would agree completely. He's a ball of psychosis, and I love him too. He's one of my favorite characters, but he's constantly getting in his own way. Look at Batman Zur in R or Failsafe. It's like he's doing these things to protect people, but because of his own issues, it usually blows up in his face, which makes for great stories, obviously.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but also it prevents him from really like being like as great as he can be and on the level of someone like Mr. Terrific.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Look, I think that Batman I think tying in with emotional awareness is like or emotional intelligence is being self-aware. And I think that like Lex Luthor, like you could, and this is real life too, you could be as smart as you want, you could be as hard working as you want, but if you're not self-aware enough, like that's what ties everything together. That's what, like, you're not on the accelerator the whole time. Like, you gotta be able to, figure yourself out. So Batman isn't always self-aware. Lex Luthor definitely is not self-aware, but Mr. Terrific seems like he knows that he can still learn and has things to like work on. I love Batman. The way I see Batman, the reason I love him, I don't view him as the guy who's reached the mountaintop. I view him as the guy on the journey, right? Like, because people are like, oh, what's the mountaintop? Like, beating up Darkseid, shooting him, And it's like, no. Like, his self-journey is realizing that he doesn't have to do it alone. That's Batman's big thing.
No, 100%. Yeah, I mean, like, and that's my thing is, and I talk about it all the time on my TikTok because I've absolutely hated this era of Batman that's become where it's just power scaling him to like, oh, he can technically beat this god, or he has this prep time to do this. And it's like, listen, in concept, those things are funny. They're kind of fun to talk about. But the ultimate aspect of Batman is the fact that he is not this self-aware person, but he finds so much connected family, the people around him who help him grow and, realize he's not alone. That's why I loved Grant Morrison's Batman more than anything. I loved Ram V's Detective Comics run because I think they hit so beautifully on that, the importance of Bruce Wayne, the person, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I like a Batman who's not the smartest like, he is one of the smartest people. But, like, if there has to be one thing that Batman should be the best in the world at, like, there should only be one thing. Like, one of his skills, he's number one. The rest, he could be a contender for top 10. I don't care. But, like, I think being a detective should be his number one. Like, being a fighter, being, like, a hand-to-hand fighter, top 5, top 10, sure. Being the smartest guy in the room, top 10, okay.
Yeah. I like the idea of him being a great detective, being incredibly talented as a fighter, but being the guy that's going to miss something because he's getting kind of emotional or he's trying to ignore a problem internally. That's what I like, where it's like, oh, it's not like it's problems he can't punch his way out of.
Yeah. Jack, I'm really curious about your pick of the week.
Yeah, my pick of the week, I think it's probably the New History of DC. I didn't think that this would end up being my favorite because I am a huge like DC cosmology guy. Like I love diving deep into this very deeply. And I love Mark Waid. And it wasn't that I thought I would not like this issue, but it was a lot more about being hesitant about the fact that it just realistically is so much content over the history of DC to look at, the reboots, everything, that if you're trying to put this all together, I have to accept that there's going to be a brutal retcon somewhere or something that's just like, oh, that messes with certain pieces of the timeline, but that's fine. It's one of those things you just kind of have to expect. I think that Joshua Williamson, as great as he did Dark Crisis, there wasn't any like big retcon issues, but it was just little things where it's like, hey, maybe bring this thing up. This is a little bit important. But I was pleasantly surprised with how much history they went over and properly established and explained where in the timeline it fit. I wish there was more of an emphasis on the specific like upper multiversal cosmic level of DC. But again, like it's so much content. I understand why they couldn't sit there for a while. And
this is 1 out of 4 also.
Yeah, exactly. I almost wish it was like 6, but like, ultimately I think for how much content they are going over, which is an absurd amount. Like I think you could have done a history of the Green Lanterns and it would have been a majority of the content that's in all the cosmic stuff, like it's just that expanded. I was just very pleasantly surprised with how well Waid covered everything accurately, especially with all the reboots. I think that he hit everything pretty on target.
Yeah, I mean, I think first things first is this is less of a comic book than it is like an encyclopedia, right? And like that's something that we got to know going in. Also, there's a lot of sources cited at the end, right? So, like, I would say 2/3 of the book is the new history, and then the last third, if not a half, is like sources and citing and like citations, which is great for like a DC nerd like me,
Oh yeah.
But I also knew that like going into it, I was wondering like what changes, what stays the same, what will I love, and what will I be disappointed that it's being like part of the fabric now, right?
Yeah.
Did you have that concern?
I had the same concern. I think that ultimately where I ended up landing is that they covered everything, but they never went out of their way to retcon something. It would be situations where, in the cosmic area of it all, with like talking about the multiverse and Perpetua, I liked all of that. I wish, and this is kind of a harder area of DC to talk about, but like the entire idea of like the overmonitor that Grant Morrison introduced, and like the entire idea that DC is this speck on a big page and all this weird cosmic stuff around that, I thought has always been incredibly interesting and a pretty important part of DC. With like, if you ever look at like the Empty Hand that got brought back with like Dark Crisis, all of those really higher concept things I was hoping would be in this issue, but I understood that it's kind of complicated to talk about. I wouldn't have blamed Mark Waid if you wanted to just skip past it, but he didn't retcon it in any kind of way. He kind of just glossed over it. He just didn't attack it. He focused on Perpetua and the hands, but he never went out of his way to sort of retcon those aspects that I loved that Grant Morrison brought into the picture. He just kind of glossed over them and didn't feel a need to explain them because they didn't, create a gap in the storyline. So there was no need to talk about it overly. So I was happy that nothing aggressively was retconned, but just kind of glossed over.
Yeah. Ethan, did you read this one?
Yes, and I feel the exact same way. I mean, this was a tall order. This was a behemoth when you're tackling DC history, and it's hard to like really be able to do it quote unquote perfectly because there's so many various timelines and things that have happened. But this felt like almost as close to perfect as what can be made. And I really have to give credit to Mark Wade for compiling this because I, as a fan, feel very satisfied with it. I just remember, in the New 52 era, how disappointed I felt with so much retconning happening that didn't felt right for the various characters. It didn't feel conducive to better storytelling. It felt, more basic and perhaps more easily digestible for new readers, perhaps, but much less interesting overall. So to have something like this that's so expansive and so vastly intriguing, and to include various things like the Source and Perpetua and the World of Forger, and also how it's connecting to books that are happening right now, including like with Batman, Superman, but then Justice League Unlimited, and then dealing with like the Legion of superheroes coming back. It feels like a very connected time, and I'm someone who loves a connected universe. Not to say that everything has to be like, oh, I need cameos. That's not what I mean. I just wanted to feel like this is all coexisting and it's cohesive. And that's what the DCU feels like. And it hasn't felt that way in a very long time. So I feel like the new history of the DC universe is almost like the crown on DC's head when it comes to this continuity.
Yeah. I I'm just happy with this. That's all I'm saying. Like this is, and it's funny because this is issue one of this is the stuff I don't care about, like in this issue, but it was cool enough. Like I don't care about the Wild West DC, like some people do, and like I don't blame them. Like I just don't care so much about Batlash and like whatever, you know. But like something I think is interesting. It starts off with like Barry Allen has charted the multiverse or charted the timeline or whatever it is. I always get it. I always think it sucks when like the timeline is not the same as the multiverse, right? Like one is linear and the other one's just a mess. But Barry Allen is charting it all, and he's the one telling us all this, which is kind of weird for Barry Allen. Like you're telling me Barry Allen comprehends the meta of the DC universe, like God and demons and the angels and Perpetua and Dream of the Endless and like all that.
Yep.
Barry Allen of all people.
With how much he's been through, I like it makes sense to me.
I understand it through more of less of me being like, oh, I'm sold that this makes sense for Barry, but more like, oh, I get why they'd want to make Barry the guy that knows everything about DC, especially with Wally back. And it's kind of like, what do you do with a retired Barry Allen? It's like making him the focus of like multiversal, anomalies and situations and the history of it all is kind of like, in my opinion, honestly, a great way to deal with him as a retired character. I like that a lot. So I just generally am a fan of that direction of just having him be the guy explaining all this stuff, even if it's like, oh yeah, does he have all the knowledge on every aspect of this, including all the spiritual ghost stuff and everything to do with that kind of stuff with DC? It's like, you know what? I can buy it for sure though. I like that direction for a retired Barry Allen.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, I hope he's writing it down because classically Barry Allen, he can move at super speed and read at super speed. He can't memorize things at super speed. So like classically, he can't store the knowledge. It's all short term. He forgets about the things after he does it real quick.
Perhaps it should have been Bart Allen then.
He can do it, right?
Yes, because he read the entire San Francisco library and became Kid Flash.
Yeah, that's right.
And he stored the information.
I forget who I did this on. Maybe I did this on. Maybe it was one of your videos, Ethan. Maybe it was someone else's. I said Barry Allen should lose his speed, but in his body, but not in his mind. I just think that like, if we're moving him away, he doesn't need the super speed, but just make him a super processor.
That'd be interesting.
Especially just because he's kind of. It's a weird way to phrase it, but he's kind of like the guy in the chair. Like he's retired. Like he's not really going to go out and really fight people anymore. So might as well just make him this incredibly intelligent guy who understands the history of it all and is incredibly fast with his brain. Like if you
Yeah.
want to take advantage of a cool way of using the super speed power, let that be all around just his brain and what he's thinking about in his mind. I think that's a fun way for his character to progress without having to go fight crime.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we'll have to go more in depth with this on Sunday's episode, but I think the biggest thing, and this is just issue 1, the biggest retcon I think is saying that Milestone is part of the DC universe now.
Right. Yes.
They've outright said it in this. Icon lands on Earth. And if Icon's on Earth, Static's on Earth. Like this is big news, right?
Yeah, that's huge because I feel like not since maybe Dwayne McDuffie was on Justice League.
Yeah.
Is really when like it felt like, oh, they're incorporating Milestone into the DC, which I love that era. I'm not going to get fully into it because I don't want to get upset. But yeah, so this felt like the first time since then that they've really like had that come back. So that was definitely, I didn't expect it, but it's a welcome surprise.
100%. Especially because, it's so funny because I love Icon, but I sometimes realize I don't know how popular he actually is outside of like DC Comics or just general comic books, because people became pretty big fans of him in Young Justice. And I started to realize this over time where I'm like, he does genuinely, outside of people who just know him generally as the character Icon, people who just know DC and Young Justice and all these other things are like, oh, I know Icon. Yeah, he's pretty cool. He's that other kind of Superman guy. And it's like, okay, I'm glad that we're at least finally folding guys like him and Static in here so people can just eventually down the line know that these guys are part of the DC universe. And I don't have to be like, well, yeah, kind of no, technically. Like, it just is straight up, yep, DC history. They are a part of the DC universe.
Yeah. Also, yeah, I mean, Young Justice, I loved Young Justice because they had the full toy box to play with, you know? Like, they had everybody. They weren't saying there was embargoes on any character. They were just like, no, we have the rights to it. We're just putting them in Young Justice, you know? Putting Marvin and Wendy and Icon and Rocket and Static and, like, you know, like, everybody. So I think that's a big thing. And then there's, like, smaller things like Justice Society Dark, which DC loves the team branding. They do. They got Young Justice Dark. They got Justice Society Dark. They got Justice League Dark. Like,
and my thing with that is I like it, but I wish they knew they are allowed to make new teams that aren't just labels of already existing ones. And I like Justice Society Dark, but it's like things like what Justice League Odyssey was cool to me because that was interesting. That was a little bit different. Things like that is where I'd like to see these new teams go to. Like the whole new Justice League Red thing. I don't know how great that'll end up being, but I like that that's a new actual DC team that isn't just here's the Teen Titans, but Teen Titans Dark, you know. I'm glad that it's an actual new label.
What's Justice League Red?
So I believe I'm blanking on what the team looks like, but it's
Did I miss this?
Man. I don't know if you did. This was about what, maybe 2 weeks ago? This was announced, something like that, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking it up. I also, I don't look at, I look at, like, if news articles pop up, but I don't look ahead at solicits.
Gotcha. This was sent to me by a friend because he was like, this, but no Justice League Odyssey. And I'm like, you're probably not getting another Justice League Odyssey, unfortunately.
Oh, it's a covert ops team for the Justice League.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think Red Alert.
Yes, yeah. And I think Red Tornado's the leader, if I'm not wrong. Either him or Deadman, I believe.
Well, so the lineup, according to what I'm looking at, it is Red Tornado making the call out to, like, bring the team together. It's Simon Baz, it's Power Girl, it's Red Canary, it's Deadman, and it's Cyborg.
And I love this just because they're not sidelining Simon Baz anymore, who I love. And I'm glad that he's getting attention. So that makes me super, super happy. And I liked Red Canary. That was a fun character, at least I thought so. So I like that lineup. That's fun.
Yeah, it's a good team. I like Power Girl too.
It's also written by Saladin Ahmed and with art by Clayton Henry. So I'm so excited. Okay, I'm not going to get sidetracked on this. So this whole time, yes, we've been talking about like your guys' picks of the week, which are DC books. I'm going to go against the grain, and I'm going to pick Fantastic Four 33. And that is because, I mean, Ryan North has been just writing a really good Fantastic Four run. And the thing about this is that it takes place during One World Under Doom, but it's not dealing with Doom right now, because essentially what Doom did. Are you guys keeping up with Fantastic Four?
I'm not, but I've heard people talk a little vaguely of it. So I like kind of know what's going on, but not really.
Yeah, same.
It's science fiction comic book. Like, it's Fantastic Four the way it should be, right? Science fiction, adventure, but like also kind of like a Star Trek or a Twilight Zone episode. Like, there are lessons to be learned, and there's pseudoscience, and there's kind of real science, and like it really, like, it's definitely certain people's vibe, and it would also, on the flip side, not be certain people's vibe. You know, I think that like you guys would like it, but I think that like it gives something that like maybe other people don't want. You know, but essentially the premise of this, and it made me. I don't know whether it made me cry, but it almost made me cry. But basically, so in One World Under Doom, Doom is running the world. The Fantastic Four stepped up to Doom. Doom said he took Ben Grimm's powers away. But because the four are linked, like cosmically, Ben loses his powers and the other people's powers start failing, the other three. So this is Fantastic Four issue 33, but on the cover it says Fantastic Four and it's scratched out and it says 0, Fantastic 0. And so all of them, so they decide to take a trip to the Big Bang at a certain point in the Big Bang to get the cosmic rays that they need to reignite their powers again. And they bring Herbie along for the ride. But they, like, I think up Herbie's intelligence so he becomes, like, sentient, right? And through that, he realizes that he can feel love. And in the end, I don't know. He sacrifices himself. It's all just in one issue. But, like, he sacrifices himself for the team, and he feels love. And in the end of the book, Valeria is talking to Reed, and she says, look, in the beginning of the Big Bang, there was equal amounts matter and antimatter, but something set it off, like, kilter. So now we have a universe full of matter. What was that off part? And it was, they theorized that it was Herbie being extra matter in the universe that like tipped it over to the edge. And so
interesting.
But they also like feel like that he sacrificed himself through love, and so that love is kind of a foundational corner, like a fabric of the universe because of it.
That's really cool,
that.
actually. Yeah,
Yeah,
I feel like
maybe.
I feel like this run would be completely up my alley. Like, I don't read a lot of Fantastic Four, but they've always been the team that I feel like them and the X-Men. I feel as though if I were to just put my foot into that, I think I'd absolutely love both those teams.
I mean, I've never really cared too much about Fantastic Four. I always read them, but like this run is like next level.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to check that out.
Yeah. There's also an issue where Johnny Storm falls in love with a completely alien creature that is not humanoid in any respect. And
I've seen a few of these panels, yeah.
So, you know, there's different things for different people. So
love is love.
Love is love, you know? There's also a dilemma in that book. Again, it's very Star Trek, very Twilight Zone. Like, do you kill someone to save the timeline? It's things like that. Like, they're constantly dealing with these science fiction dilemmas. Anyway, book really good. It was very simple. You could literally read just this issue, and you'd technically be fine.
Yeah.
But I recommend the whole run. Okay. You know.
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah. Yep.
Definitely.
All right. So, for the sake of time, we got 30 minutes. I mean, let's hit some of the other stuff that you guys read. Anything you're dying to talk about? Like right off the bat? We'll get to
nothing.
But, you know.
One that I'd like to talk about, not necessarily just because of this specific issue, but generally this run in general. So I read the newest Green Lantern issue by Jeremy Adams, and I
Okay.
think he's been an interesting one when it comes to Green Lantern because I'm a massive Hal Jordan fan. Like next to Batman, Hal's probably my second favorite character of all time. And with this run, I've loved it, but I think I wouldn't say this is necessarily a problem, but just a thing I've noticed with Adams is that I liked his Wally West Flash run, but it felt like it was settling the fan service aspect of things in a good way, like a well done way, before the stories truly became very exciting and interesting. They weren't bad stories, but it was a lot of these fun little moments with fan service from old things you liked because you're bringing the character back to what they used to be. And that stuff's really nice and it's warm and it's cool. And it's not necessarily low stakes. It's just not the craziest writing in the world. And I think that it feels as though this Green Lantern run's doing the same thing, even though I do like a lot of the concepts we're seeing. But it's a lot of that where it's like, all right, here's Razor, from the animated series. And it's like, that's awesome. But then beyond those little moments here and there, it's a good Green Lantern series, but nothing's really like popped off to take it to that next level yet. And we're a few now 24 issues in. But I do think that his usage of fan service is still good. Like in this newest issue, we got Aya, who was also from the animated series, which is really cool. And I like that addition. I just hope that the story can start to take the next step of, I like what they've done with the emotional spectrum and explaining that. I think Adams has actually nailed that. But I'd like to see the stories just get a little bit more concise and really truly about all the lanterns and really just take the next step of this big story. I like it, just want it to be great and as opposed to just good.
Okay. Just so you know, there's a non-zero chance, a non-zero chance that he could listen to you right now. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I love him. I think I like Jeremy Adams a lot. You know what I mean?
Too.
It's just more like it's like, this is good. I'm waiting for it to get really great, so it's still good.
Sometimes I feel like a lot of authors, they will, when they're starting with like a new number one, or they have to take over a series after someone finishes their run, they have to like kind of slow down a little, bring it back to zero, set the pieces back up in order to like do something bigger. So like Green Lantern, we're on issue
24, I believe.
Did he write all 24 issues? Did he start from one?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because he started this run, if I'm not wrong, 2023.
Okay. I think I'm a couple issues behind.
He's done a good job writing Hal. I think it always with
I'm not a Hal fan. That's also a thing.
I get that. I'm a big Hal and Kyle guy. They're like my two favorites, With Hal, I just like, everything from the redemption arc of like, Parallax and all the way up to now. You know what I mean? I just like him as that character that feels grand. He doesn't have to be the main character in things. It's just this legend. And I think he's done a good job handling Hal. I've just seen a lot of people make the argument that it feels like with Adams, it's like there's a lot of good stuff happening. It's just not like the most deep analysis of the character type deal. It feels like an episode out of the Green Lantern like animated show that happened. And that's cool. You just wonder like, all right, this is cool. I like this. I'm just waiting for this, character development for all these people and the story to take another big step. You know what I mean? Where it's like, if it stays like this, I'm happy with it, but I'm waiting for that next step. So at the very least, he's done a good job with Hal.
Yeah. My only thing is, I don't know how deep you can go with Hal, because to me, Hal isn't like, you can go deep with Jessica Cruz or Jon Stewart or Kyle. I just want Kyle back.
I get it. Yeah.
But like Hal, okay. Oh, by the way, something that just reminded me before we move on is I don't know if you guys are gonna go see F1.
At some point, I plan to.
So I saw an early screening of F1, and Brad Pitt driving the race cars, kind of, and it's because it's the same director as Top Gun Maverick. He reminds me of Hal in a way. You know what I mean? Like he's but he's kind of a dick. Like, he's not listening to people. But that's also just like Tom Cruise's character in Top Gun Maverick, which, is probably closer to Hal. Anyway, just wanted to say that.
Yeah. Feels like there's been so many actors that feel like they give off Hal Jordan vibes, but they're always just kind of way older. You know what I mean? I always see like guys like Tom Cruise or just like that kind of vibe. Even Kyle Chandler, who's playing Hal Jordan now, I don't mind him being that old, but I think to myself, man, if he was younger, that's actually a phenomenal Hal Jordan casting. It's just all these guys where it's like you fit the Hal Jordan mold, you're just like in your 50s, which if you're fine with an older Hal Jordan, then that works. But I think it's funny how many actors I end up seeing who fit that Hal mold.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Ethan, what else did you read?
Superman number 27 was good. I like the fallout of Lois no longer having her powers. I mean, we all knew it was going to happen. I kind of wish that it lasted longer, but I'm sure with the movie coming out, they don't want to if they have new readers and be like, oh, also Lois can fly now. So
Yeah.
I get why they did it, but also love she is okay with it because she was a whole person before she gained superpowers, and she felt almost more sorrowful for Superman and oh, he no longer has a super wife to someone to fly around with, but he feels completely fine as well. So I feel like they did that personal story really well. It's also interesting because Marilyn Moonlight was brought back, and I feel like she's one of the most interesting newer characters that's been created in the DCU, and I don't want her to slip away because her backstory is great. She could have a mini, hopefully a solo, incorporate her into different teams. And after the events of this book, that very well could happen. So overall, this was a very strong story.
I liked this issue. I read it also. I think what's interesting is Lex telling Mercy, he's like, you can come with me or you can own the company. And she picks owning the company. And
yeah,
that sucks. I'm sorry, Lex. This is a version of Lex that I like. So
me too. Yeah, because it feels less cartoony. Okay, that's part of his character to be super obsessed, fist shaking, I will get you, Superman. That's part of his makeup. But at the same time, I feel like we are in this post golden age era where we can show more complex heroes. And I like that there's this back and forth where he obviously still has these issues with Superman. At the same time, he's not a complete monster, and he has these levels to himself. So even that Mercy scene was really cool because I feel like that even gives her more agency than she normally has. She's always attached to Lex Luthor, and this gives her that independence. And so I'd almost like to see what her dynamic would be, the woman behind the man now being in the forefront of it. Also, one of the dopest scenes was Superman grabbing the Superman logo off of Super Core and smashing it into the giant mech.
Yeah.
I live for that. So
Yeah.
yes, I was just talking about the whole deeper meaning of Lois Lane, but also I'm a superhero fan.
Yeah.
And but also how that page was constructed with the panels, and it was about the destruction of Lex and Superman. Yes.
Yeah.
That stuff gives me when you mix the blockbuster action with something deeply profound, then you have me. So this was one of my favorite books this week too.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
nice.
I thought it was a good issue. I think especially the point you made about sort of distancing away from Silver Age silly over the top cartoon Lex Luthor, because I like that. I think that's obviously who Lex is. But I've always said that if you're not going to change that aspect of Lex, I like to see the people around Lex have more urgency and agency to them to do their own thing and interact with Lex without just being a servant. And I liked that aspect of Mercy in this. It felt right. It felt like it helped build his character just as much as it built Mercy's up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I'm wondering at some point with the new movie coming out whether DC is going to make Lex back to being bad, and then also if they're gonna youngify him. They're gonna de-age him.
Good point.
By the way, I love, from what I've seen in the trailer, Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor has to be the coolest Lex Luthor since Michael Rosenbaum, which maybe isn't saying anything because Jesse Eisenberg was Lex Luthor, but that Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor just seems cool. He would be someone you would want to work for and then regret.
Yeah, and it's a small thing, but one of the big things about him is his voice, like his cadence, the way he talks, like that clip of him in Superman talking and Superman's asking where Crypto is, he just comes across so genuinely arrogant and like a dick that wants to like, get Superman so mad. And I think that's done in such a great way that doesn't feel like, with Eisenberg, he was very much trying to be like kind of creepy, kind of like a little bit over the top. And then with other Lexes, it's more about being very stern. And with Nicholas Holt, it just feels like he's a genuine jerk. He feels like he feels spiteful with the way he talks. And I love that so much because it's very subtle, but it works so well. He feels bitter.
Yeah. And there's a swagger to him. Like,
Yes,
Lex
100%.
needs a swagger. He just does. Because Clark...
Yeah, even his outfits.
The swagger that Clark doesn't have, right?
Yes.
Like
I saw somebody bring up that it's great that Corn Sweat's only like an inch taller than him. So it's like the slightest difference, but the amount of a difference that would make Lex so angry, but doesn't make Lex look tiny, It's just enough that internally that would frustrate Lex.
Yeah. I love how much of a hater he is. Like, he lives, breathes, eats hate.
Do you want him?
Like, anyone associated with Superman, he wants dead. Who raised him? I'll kill them too. Like,
exactly.
Give me that Lex. Like, so I feel like already he's going to be one of my favorite Lexes.
Oh, yeah, by far.
I just a side note, I think that Lex, maybe, I don't know in the movie whether he tries to kill Crypto or not, but I just think the funniest move a Lex would make is depower Crypto and send him to a random pound. Like, not kill him, but depower Crypto, send him to the pound, and like just be like, you're a regular dog now. Sucks.
It feels very Lex Luthor like to do that. Yeah, just very bitter,
Yeah.
Very petty.
I don't think he would kill him. By the way, in the Crypto, if you've read Crypto, The Last Dog of Krypton, issue number 1, which came out last week or the week before, it ends with Crypto landing on the Earth and meeting a young Lex.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I've always liked whenever there is that connection of like Crypto and these other like vaguer Superman characters in the Kryptonian family to Lex. I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that'd be something James Gunn like toys with in some kind of way. But it seems like this Crypto is connected more to Supergirl in some kind of way. Because if you listen to Corn Sweat Superman, he's always referring to him as like kind of where's the dog, or like it seems like he doesn't regularly hang out with Crypto. At least that's the vibe I've kind of picked up on.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how that's handled. It'd be cool.
Yeah. There's just so much. Let's hit some Marvel to get it out of the way, and then I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm sorry, but let's hit some Marvel because we've been very DC heavy in this episode, and we're going to continue being DC heavy. But for the, to get everything. Did you guys read Predator versus Spider-Man number 3?
I
did not, unfortunately.
Okay. You don't need to know much. I think there's 4 issues on this miniseries. And essentially, there is a Predator in New York City, but this Predator doesn't have an honor like the other Predators do. So he is going around killing. We don't see a child get killed, but we see a slide of blood, like a playground slide of blood. Like we don't. But he's killing anyone and everyone, not just like the Predators in the Fox movies, are very honor bound, right? Even though they go above, like they're a little too much, but like they are honor bound. This one is the one without honor, or something they call him, and so he's killing people left and right and skinning people and just like keeping the corpses everywhere. And so there's that Predator, and then there's another group of Predators that are there to get him. But then Spider-Man's in the middle, and then Kraven is hunting that Predator. So it's pretty cool, but it's kind of a spectacle of a miniseries. If you like the Predator or interested in Spider-Man going up against the Predator, like, cool. I don't know whether it's in continuity or not. They haven't done anything that can't be taken back, but who knows? Final issue, people might die. I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, Archie went up against the Predator. Archie comic, so.
Oh, wow, okay.
Archie has gone up against everybody. Archie went up against Sharknado, so.
Really? That's an interesting one, okay.
Archie used to be the king of crossovers.
Yeah. I was going to say, Sharknado seems like the final boss of random crossovers, so, yeah.
Um, but oh, Miles Morales Spider-Man came out this week, number 34. Did you guys read it or
I was
I
not
read
able
it.
to know.
I
um
checked that out.
Ethan, did you like it? You liking it? You liking this
I
God War stuff?
Yeah, I'm liking it. Okay, here's what I realized. Like, I really don't like tournament storylines outside of anime. I feel like that's what I've like realized. Like, it's good for what it is, but it's not really what I want. I don't hate it. It's interesting. I love the stuff with Anansi just because like as the spider god, like it's a very cool connection he has with Miles. All that stuff works. I don't feel really connected to the whole like Dr. Kwan situation. Once again, don't hate it. It's just not my favorite type of storyline. So I am looking forward to where it's going to go next.
Yeah. I mean, luckily I like the character and I like the writer that, you know, it's not a horrible like story arc, but also I feel like it's a lot more character moments than it is like anything else, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm just feeling like because of that, like disconnected from the story, like it's not a bad story. I'm just not leaving it like, oh wow, that was amazing. I kind of feel like I wanted more than what I got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um did you guys haven't read Spider Boy, right?
I have
Not sure.
not. No.
Okay. It's just super cute and it ended on issue 20 and it just kind of wrapped things up and it didn't kill the character or like move him to a different dimension or anything. He's still around and I don't know. I like him and I feel like if he was never created, I'd be fine. But now that he's created, I don't want anyone to harm this little boy. You know?
That's
Right.
sweet.
You know? I'm just like
Yeah.
he's well, I'm also like I felt bad for Ugly Sonic. Like you remember the
Mhm.
Sonic of the first trailer?
I didn't feel
I
bad for
do.
him.
And when they were like they redid the trailer and they made him like better, I was like, but that's and even before the Chip and Dale movie that came out that had Ugly Sonic in it, like I thought to myself, that Sonic still exists in a multiverse out there, and he is not loved, and I feel really bad for him.
I would, in concept, I'd like to feel bad for him, but man, it was such an ugly design. It's so hard. Like
Yes.
it was so ugly.
He was unlovable. And like I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but he should have never have been made just because we've had all these years of like normal looking Sonic. And then you go, "Hey, let's do a movie. Let's make him look fugly." Like
Yeah,
I don't
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
like the thought process behind that.
It
yeah,
was just an uncomforting design. It was so strange. I don't know
Yeah.
why that was the choice, but
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I'm surprised. Are you guys? Let's talk about the two absolute DC books that came out this week. Because I'm surprised like they weren't ranking higher. But then again, DC just has a lot of really good stuff.
I
There's good Marvel stuff, but
that's I didn't read Absolute Wonder Woman. I didn't get to it, unfortunately.
mhm.
But with Absolute Martian Manhunter, I mean, that probably would have been my number one if I wasn't just so big on DC cosmology. Just because, I mean, even just story alone, which I've enjoyed, the art on that is unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
It's so beautiful. And I just love everything they're doing with this concept with Martian Manhunter. It's so interesting. It's genuinely made me wonder if there would ever be any moments here where we see synergy between this and the mainline Martian Manhunter, which
Mm.
it'd be hard to do, but I just wonder because there are just such interesting ideas of going about Martian Manhunter here that I almost wonder if they would be tempted, just because it's such a fascinating way of using him, and it works so specific with comic book art, which is so beautiful to me. Like it doesn't feel like something you could go and adapt into a TV show. Like it feels very grounded in the fact that it is a comic book. Like one of my
Mhm.
favorite comic books is Pax Americana, and that's
Oh,
because that
so
yeah,
good.
like yeah, like that comic book. It works so well because I can't ever imagine that being adapted. Like it just feels like everything that's so great about it is the comic book panels. Like it's the panels, it's the way that it's drawn. And I feel that way about Absolute Martian Manhunter, where it just feels like this. I feel like a lot of projects get adapted into TV shows and movies or animated content. And as cool as that is, it feels like sometimes that takes away from the core actual comic book and people going to go see the comic book, and they feel the need like, hey, I won't read, the Red Hood storyline, I'll just go watch Under the Red Hood. I like that this feels like if you want to engage with the absolute Martian Manhunter character, you just got to go to the comic because that is the like prize right here. You're never going to get some animated show for it. This is the content. Go and enjoy it. Go enjoy the art. So I just like that it truly feels like you can't turn this into anything else but a comic book.
Yeah, it's really using the medium, and it's rare. Like a lot of comics, I mean, there's a lot of great comics, but those great comics don't always use the medium in such an exclusive way, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And so, yeah, I didn't get to finish this issue, but like, it's really, it is really heady. It's not necessarily my favorite because of it, but I can tell it's quality.
Yeah, I personally like live for stories like these, and I feel like they're so rare. This feels on a very like Grant Morrison level of symbolism and meta, and like even when people very rarely like attempt to do it, it doesn't always connect the way that it's supposed to. But this one, like even though yes, it is heady and surrealist and very adventurous, but it still has a point to it, and it resonates. Like it's about humanity, and then even this issue with him and his wife. Like it doesn't ever lose that human connection. And that's really what I love about this book is that for all of the stylistic choices, it never loses that emotional tether. And that's really what keeps me coming back each week. And also like each page, as you were saying, it's a feast because you never know what you're gonna get, but it's always something like deeply interesting or like makes you pause and think. And I love that it's not a comic book that you can just like breeze by and like, okay, whatever. It's like, oh, what does that mean? He's grabbing the sun. He's pulling like the different color spectrums out of it. What does that mean? And I love like having to use your brain versus just like, oh, brain rot content where I'm just like, okay, next, okay, next, okay, next. Like this makes you like pause and use your thought processes in a different way, which is the whole point of the story.
Yeah. Like there are certain comics where it's like, yeah, I mean, most comics are like, yeah, let's move to the next page. Page 1 to page 2, page 3. But I feel like something like Absolute Martian Manhunter, it's like, how can I leave this page behind? Right? I feel like, is there something that I personally have felt that for Kingdom Come, because I love Kingdom Come, where it's like turning the page is moving the timeline forward to a way like you're leaving things behind in a way. Anyway, that's just being a comic fan. It is what it is. Are you guys not digging Absolute Wonder Woman? Because I love Absolute Wonder Woman and the Greek mythology of it all. They bring in the Minotaur. This is my jam.
Yeah, I think it's been awesome. I just have been unfortunately so behind with it. But I will say I have loved so far what they've done. I've just unfortunately been so behind with the story.
I'm loving Absolute Wonder Woman. With that said, I don't think this was the strongest issue. It wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's just that the other ones have been so phenomenal. And this was the first one. And I'm going to sound like a spoiled brat, but that's okay. But it's like, because I feel like each issue, there's been something kind of like major that happens, like whether it's like the like big sword that she creates, taking out the tetracide. And because of that, like I did get kind of like spoiled. Like she does stuff in this book that is cool, like opening a doorway to the underground prison. She meets Ferdinand. It's like there are very interesting elements that are incorporated. But I didn't get my big moment. And that's probably unfair for me to ask because I still got a very solid story that was very interesting, had, moments with Steve Trevor and her group, and there was really nothing wrong with it. But because it's such a high bar, like when it comes down like a little bit, it does not like make a big difference, but I do like notice it. But also where it's going, it's still going in an interesting direction. So
yeah,
I'm still very excited.
Okay. All right. For the sake of time, everything else on our list, we're gonna hit like 10-second reviews. All right. Keep it short, keep it concise. Obviously, we read a bunch. I'm just gonna hit my Image comics right off the bat because you guys didn't read it, and I'm just gonna keep it short and sweet. Hyde Street is Twilight Zone terror and I'm not a big horror fan, but I am loving the mythos that they've made with Hyde Street. So Hyde Street issue 7 came out this week. It was a must read for me. It's like one of my first comics I read when I get them. So that's Hyde Street. Image Comics, Ghost Machine imprint. Also, Image Comics, Ghost Machine imprint. A different vibe is Rockefellers. Rockefellers issue number 6 came out this week. It is kind of like Meet the Robinsons in a way. It's witness protection, but for the future. So family from the future. It's Phil of the future, gone back in time. There's like heavy elements of science fiction and the fact that death is around the corner, but there's also a lot of slapstick comedy, and I just feel like this is meant to be a movie or TV show that would be really good. But that's Rockefellers. And then Dark Horse Comics, Huck, Big Bad World, issue number 2, which is a sequel to the first Huck, which is Mark Miller, one of Mark Miller's books. It's just a nice book, but there's not much going in this new season or series. It is what it is. Whatever. Anyway, let's hit the rest of what you guys read for the sake of time. Justice League Unlimited issue number 8. Anyone got any like quick reviews on it? I thought it ended like the spectacle of it was cool, but it was just kind of lackluster and not much happened.
I
go for it.
this.
Yeah.
Okay. I enjoyed this issue. Yes, it was like a big calamity, epic scope, but that's kind of what I wanted for this. And I actually have been wanting more of it from this crossover. And once again, expectation meeting reality. This wasn't really the storyline that I was expecting to get. It wasn't bad. I just wanted a bit more, but where it's heading is very interesting. So I feel like this was one of the strongest in the entire storyline for me personally.
Yeah, I think that the way it ended is what I was hoping in terms of spectacle and scale, what it would be like throughout. And so I at least am excited to know that it seems like we're going to get that scale going forward for this story or for these characters and everything. So I'm happy about that at the very least. But for me, it feels like, okay, that was fine, but I know what I wanted out of that. I wanted a bigger scale, more earned kind of feeling of this stuff. So not getting that, it wasn't like, oh, I disliked it, but it was like like you said, it didn't really meet my expectations, but I wasn't necessarily disappointed. More like, oh, okay, could have been better, but I wasn't upset with the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a team spinning out of this? Isn't there like a multi-timeline team that's coming out of this? All the characters that got left behind at the end?
It seems like that's what it's setting up. Like with that ending, it feels like they're going to use that to make like this like history timeline team of some sort, which I think is dope.
Yeah, because you have the Justice League Incarnate, which kind of are like the multiversal aspect of it. So it makes sense for them to want to get someone more concrete for history.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited on what's to come for that, but I trust that they'll explore character moments that like Mark Waid's been exploring with the Batman Superman World's Finest, right? Like,
yeah,
with meeting your past self and realizing like what has happened, and we got Terry McGinnis Batman Beyond, so that's we also got Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 18. I read it. I thought it was good. Not much happens, but it sets up for the next issue.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I like Spidey with Harry and their kind of team up. I feel like that was fun. But yeah, this felt more like it's a like transition issue, so not much took place. Some pretty nice character moments, so I can't really complain.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you guys read Green Arrow 25?
I did. I was a fan. I think that this run has been very, very strong. I've been a very big fan of this run so far. I think that they really get Green Arrow. And I feel like we've gotten a lot of stories where it feels like a lot of writers forget that, Oliver is supposed to be this very hardcore left-leaning guy. And it's not like I think these stories forget it to such a grueling degree, but a lot of the times it kind of feels like they don't let his politics sit right on his shoulders, and he kind of is just like neutral about things a lot of the times, which I find frustrating sometimes with certain writers. And I like that in this storyline, he just is full on who Oliver is supposed to be or supposed to be. It feels like they truly get him as a character. And not only that, I love Arsenal. I love Roy Harper. So seeing him hop back into this, them fighting Count Vertigo in the beginning was so cool. I love anytime Roy gets any time to shine. So I've been a very big fan of how they've both handled Oliver, but just also the Green Arrow family in general.
Yeah. Yeah. I love this run. It's been great.
Yeah.
I think Uncanny X-Men 16, I think it was just me and Ethan reading it.
Yeah, I wasn't able to get that one.
Ethan, you got thoughts? Quick thoughts?
Yeah, this was very good. I feel like this was the strongest like outlier storyline. Also love like Lady Henrietta as this pseudo villain, just because like her history and how it connects with like being a mutant and like the Black struggle and those connections was done very well. And the penumbra is a very interesting concept as well. So yeah, overall this was a very good book.
I liked this issue. I also think that like I like the idea that like Wolverine, if you are anyone, he will throw down for you. Like he I don't know, he's just more than a hero in that way. Like because Henrietta talked about how like she had a crush on him when they met in the past, right? And like it just makes me think of like Wolverine and his other loves. And I'm like, Wolverine's a good ally, you know?
He's a lover, not a fighter.
But he's just forced to fight.
Correct.
He'd rather love.
He wants to love, but he's got these adamantium claws.
What are you gonna do? You know? Nobody read Flash 22.
I wasn't able to get to it. I wanted to,
Yeah.
but unfortunately
I'm a few issues behind.
Okay. I think that's it for you guys. Did you guys read anything else?
I think that's my whole list. Yeah.
Okay. I got a couple more that I'm gonna fly through. Was that it for Ethan too?
Yes.
Okay.
So.
DCX Sonic #4. I'm surprised you guys aren't reading it. It's exactly what I would want from a Sonic and DC crossover. And I'm not even a huge Sonic fan. I love Sonic, sure. I don't know much about him. And they bring in a lot of like C-list, D-list Sonic characters into this. And I'm getting to learn all of them. They're really having fun with the crossover. So good on them. It's been fun.
Yeah, I feel like I am gonna check it out because I obviously love DC, but I really do enjoy Sonic. I'm just not a big crossover guy because it feels derivative. But like you've been praising it, so I feel like I am gonna check it at some point in time.
Yeah, I think that sometimes crossovers are just excuses, like Archie and the Predator. Like they're just like whatever.
Sharknado is different though. Now that is purely a character-driven story.
But this one, this I don't know. There's a joy inherent in this, which kind of only works with DC. Like if Sonic teamed up with the X-Men, I think like there could be a story there, but like the X-Men struggle a lot more. And I don't know whether that works with Sonic, but it is what it is.
It's the oppression.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, there's a scene in this issue where the Flash is like, the Justice League needs his help, or they're calling him in. They're like, okay, did you finish your task? All right, come back to base. And he's like, okay, but like, give me a second. I just saw like a road that is a loop-de-loop, and I need to run on it. And so, like, he just feels compelled. He's like, because that world is built for speed, right? So the fact is, like, the Flash is at home on Sonic's world. It's just so good.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And last but not least, I mean, this one was going to be my pick of the week. And I guess I saved, one of the best for last. But Giant Size Age of Apocalypse, issue #1. It was, I mean, Kamala Khan and Legion are hopping through the timeline. And it's a series of one-shots, and this is the third one. And it's good if you're an X-Men fan. I don't know. The effects on the timeline I don't think are going to be permanent. But for now, Kamala's learning what it's like to be an X-Man. That's the whole point. It's Kamala's journey.
That was intriguing.
Yeah. Also,
I love Legion, so.
I mean, I'm not a big Legion fan, I'll be honest, but it is what
it's because of the show, and the show got me into the comics.
Yeah, that's fair. This is the Legion where his other persona, like, he's kind of ascended or died or whatever, and its other personas just kind of riding, like piloting his body in an evil, like he's kind of evil or something. Anyway, it is what it is. Legion is what it is. But Age of Apocalypse, for those of you who are fans, you know, I think they're doing something with it in the future. Like Marvel. I think they're doing a new Age of Apocalypse thing. By the way, shout out to Claude, Curly Insane Guy out there for being in our chat the whole time. So thank you so much. Claude says the Jubilee cover rocks. I think talking about one of the previous, like that Uncanny X-Men cover. And giant size, almost got giant size Age of Apocalypse just for the Blink covers. The Blink covers, the variant covers for this are really good. But then also that, I think it's Art Germ. Is it Art Germ that does the Jean Grey cover? That's really good too. So, you know, just really good variant covers this week. That's pretty much it. I think that's everything that we read this week. Obviously, there are comics out there that none of us three got to. But like, that's just kind of the way, you know, the story goes. But if anyone's out there and wants to find a comic shop near you, go to comicshoplocator.com, find a comic shop near you, one that you could vibe with, one that you can connect with. If they're not good, find another comic shop. Don't give up is what I'm saying. There aren't always good comic shops, but you got to find the one that like accepts you. So hopefully a lot of, you know, inclusive, non-gatekeepy comic shops out there. You just got to find that one. So comicshoplocator.com. Before we get going, Ethan, thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can people find you? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug?
Yep, so I am a Virgo Blade. You can find me on TikTok, Twitter, Blue Sky, and Insta. Nothing major coming up, just more of the same stuff. I'll be covering Superman, the movie. I'll probably do a bunch of videos for that just because I'm very excited for it. So yeah, look out for that.
Very nice, very nice. Also, keep up the good work on TikTok.
Thank you. You too.
Jack, where can people find you? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug?
Yeah, so you guys can find me on TikTok and YouTube. I'm not very active on Instagram, but you can hop on there to go see me as well. Upcoming stuff, obviously talking about Superman. That'll be very heavy going forward. Very excited for that. And not only that, we are going to be releasing the trailer of our Batman fan film very soon. So that'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks. Be on the lookout for that. And yeah, more of the same.
Very nice,
Cool.
very nice. Also, keep doing great on TikTok because both of you guys, I mean, you guys post a lot, so it's always nice to see you guys pop up in my feed.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Work hard.
you guys do work hard, you know. Thank you to everybody out there who is watching and or listening. Claude, Curly Insane Guy here on our YouTube chat. Thanks, Claude, for stopping by and chatting with us. Thank you to everybody out there who's watching on YouTube, youtube.com/The Keeg Show, or maybe twitch.tv/The Keeg Show, or maybe you're listening to the podcast wherever you get podcasts from, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, SoundCloud, wherever you listen to podcasts. We are there, so definitely find us there. If it's social media that you want, you can find me personally at This Is Dimithri on social media. But if it's not me personally you're looking for, if you're looking for the Keeg and all the stuff that we do under the Keeg umbrella, you can find us at The Keeg Show on TikTok and Instagram. Those are our two biggest social media platforms. We're also on Blue Sky and Threads and all of that. At The Keeg Show /The Keeg Show, wherever you can find the Keeg, we are there. A lot of cool things coming up, like this weekend we're doing an episode all on the new history of the DC Universe, and we're doing a introductory entry-level Fantastic Four podcast episode called Fantastic Four 101. So people can kind of like, if you don't know, if your mom doesn't know, send her that podcast, you know? Maybe we'll get some new fans of the Fantastic Four. So there's all that. That's pretty much it. San Diego Comic-Con's coming up, and I don't know whether I can officially announce anything yet, but big things are coming. So, you know, keep an eye out for that. That's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Ethan, Jack, you guys are great, so thank you yet again. Once again, I am your host, Dimithri Perera, and this has been another episode of Comic Talk for the week of June 26, 2025. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Peace out.
See you guys.